Picture this. A chatbot reduces belief in conspiracy theories by 20%, not through arguments, not through facts, not through debunking, but through conversation. A simple conversation that changes minds in ways decades of science education never could. This isn't science fiction. This just happened, and it's about to change everything we thought we knew about truth, belief, and the battle for reality itself.
Welcome to Mindcast, where we explore the ideas reshaping how we think, believe, and understand our world. I'm your host, Will, and today we're diving into one of the most fascinating academic papers I've encountered in years, the Algorithmic Areopagus, AI-driven deep research, epistemic authority, and the future of psychologically founded beliefs. Now, I know that title is a mouthful, but stick with me, because this research reveals something profound about the moment we're living through. We're witnessing the emergence of artificial intelligence as a new kind of authority in the battle for truth, and the implications, they're staggering. Here's what you're going to learn in the next 20 minutes. First, why everything we've tried to combat misinformation has largely failed, and it's not what you think. Second, how AI has cracked the code that stumped human experts for decades. And third, why the story doesn't end there. How the same technology that can liberate minds can also imprison them in ways we've never seen before. By the end of this episode, you'll understand why we're not heading toward a world where AI defeats ignorance. We're heading toward something far more complex and, frankly, more dangerous, a world of competing algorithmic realities. Let's begin.
Key insight number 1, the great failure. For over half a century, scientists, educators, and well-meaning rationalists have been fighting a losing battle. The enemy? Deeply held beliefs that fly in the face of overwhelming evidence. Young Earth Creationism, conspiracy theories, climate change denial. And here's the kicker. Despite having more scientific information at our fingertips than any generation in human history, these beliefs aren't just surviving. In many cases, they're thriving. Why? Because we've been fighting this war with the wrong strategy. We've been operating under what researchers call the information deficit model. This model assumes something beautifully simple and completely wrong, that people believe false things because they lack accurate information. Give them the facts and they'll update their beliefs, right? Wrong. Catastrophically wrong. Here's what actually happens when you present a young Earth creationist with radiometric dating evidence or show a conspiracy theorist peer-reviewed research. Their brains don't process this as helpful new information. Their brains process it as a threat. Neuroimaging studies show that when deeply held beliefs are challenged, the amygdala lights up. That's your threat detection center. The insular cortex activates. That's emotional regulation. But here's what doesn't activate much. The dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the region associated with cold, analytical reasoning. In other words, when we challenge someone's core beliefs, we're not engaging their thinking brain. We're engaging their survival brain. This leads to what psychologists call identity protective cognition. When beliefs are tied to who you are, your community, your moral framework, your sense of belonging, defending those beliefs becomes defending yourself. And here's where it gets really interesting. Remember the backfire effect? That's when presenting someone with contradictory evidence doesn't just fail to change their mind, it actually strengthens their original belief. They walk away more convinced than when they started. Think about that for a moment. Decades of science communication, billions of dollars in education funding, countless hours of patient explanation by experts, and in many cases, we've been making the problem worse. But why have human experts been so ineffective? Well, imagine you're an evolutionary biologist debating a creationist. You're dealing with what researchers call recall asymmetry. No matter how brilliant you are, your human brain can't instantly access specific refutations for every single creationist claim, from the supposed hydrodynamic sorting of fossils to the decay rates of helium and zircon crystals.
Creationists have exploited this through a technique called the Gish Gallop, named after creationist Duane Gish. You overwhelm your opponent with a rapid-fire barrage of weak arguments. The scientist, bound by accuracy and nuance, can't address them all in real time. To the audience, the unanswered points look like conceded victories. Then there's the human factor. When experts get frustrated, and they do, the interaction shifts from collaborative truth-seeking to adversarial conflict. Game over. The possibility of belief revision vanishes the moment the expert shows irritation. So that's our first insight. Traditional approaches fail not because they lack good information, but because they trigger psychological defenses that make learning impossible.
Key insight number 2. Enter the machine. Now imagine a different kind of conversational partner. One that possesses the aggregated knowledge of human civilization but lacks ego, tribal affiliation, or emotional fatigue. One that can instantly synthesize evidence from genetics, geology, astronomy, and archaeology without breaking a sweat. One that never gets frustrated, never shows condescension, and has infinite patience for the most repetitive questions. This is what large language models bring to the table, and the results are remarkable. Let me tell you about the Debunk Bot study published in Science. Researchers created an AI system powered by GPT-4 Turbo that engaged people in personalized conversations about their conspiracy beliefs. Not debates, conversations. Here's how it worked. The AI would ask users to explain their specific reasons for believing a conspiracy theory. Then, and this is crucial, it would acknowledge those reasons and systematically address them with tailored counter-evidence. Not generic debunking, but responses crafted specifically for that person's exact concerns and logic. The results? A roughly 20% reduction in conspiracy beliefs. In the world of persuasion research, that's massive. Most interventions are lucky to achieve single-digit percentage changes. But here's what's even more impressive. The effects lasted. 2 months later, participants still showed reduced belief in conspiracy theories. And there were spillover effects. Engaging with AI on one conspiracy theory led to increased skepticism about conspiracies in general. Why does this work when human experts fail? 3 key reasons. First, consilience of induction. This is a concept from the philosopher William Wheel. It refers to evidence from completely independent sources, all pointing to the same conclusion. Evolution is supported not just by fossils, but by biogeography, embryology, molecular biology, and nuclear physics. For a creationist to maintain their worldview, they have to compartmentalize or deny all these different fields. For a human expert, demonstrating this consilience is monumental. You need polymathic expertise to fluently move from discussing the Tiktaalik fossil to explaining human chromosome 2 fusion to the isochron dating method of meteorites. Most humans, even scientists, specialize, but AI systems naturally embody this consilience. They can instantly weave together genetic evidence of endogenous retroviruses, viral DNA embedded in primate and human genomes in identical locations, with geological evidence from varves and ice cores. They present a wall of evidence that's far more impermeable to standard apologetic tactics. Second, emotional neutrality. Research shows people filter information based on the perceived source. If the source is distrusted or associated with an opposing tribe, the information gets rejected. But AI can function as a neutral arbiter. When people know they're talking to a machine, they're less likely to activate tribal defenses. Third, the Socratic method. Instead of lecturing, the AI asks questions that help people discover contradictions in their own reasoning. How would you define the difference between an open system and a closed system in thermodynamics? And do you see Earth as an open or closed system regarding energy from the sun? This exposes what psychologists call the illusion of explanatory depth. When people realize they can't actually define the terms they're using, their confidence wavers. That creates an opening for new information.
Here's another fascinating finding. AI doesn't just change what people believe, it changes how they think. The study found that people who engaged with the AI showed increased willingness to challenge others on false beliefs. The rigorous approach of AI deep research seems to model a mode of critical thinking that users then adopt, at least temporarily. And the persuasion gap between AI and humans, it's widening. A comprehensive study from EPFL and Princeton found that GPT-4 outperformed human debaters in 64.4% of cases across 900 participants. Why? Personalization. When the AI had access to demographic information, it could tailor its rhetorical strategy to align with the user's values. Discussing climate change with a conservative? Frame it in terms of stewardship and legacy rather than justice or equality. The scalability is staggering. A human expert can debate one person at a time. An AI model can engage millions simultaneously, providing each with personalized, deeply researched, infinitely patient Socratic dialogue. So, that's our second insight. AI succeeds where humans fail by combining vast knowledge synthesis, emotional neutrality, and sophisticated questioning techniques. It can pierce epistemic bubbles that have resisted decades of expert intervention. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. Key insight number 3. The empire strikes back. The same technology that can liberate minds can also imprison them, and religious communities figured this out fast. Meet AI Genesis, a chatbot deployed by Answers in Genesis, one of the world's leading Young Earth Creationist organizations. Unlike ChatGPT, this AI isn't trained on the full corpus of human knowledge. It's constrained by specific system prompts and trained exclusively on the organization's vast repository of apologetic materials. Ask AI Genesis about the age of the Earth, and you won't get radiometric dating evidence. You'll get the hydroplate theory and interpretations of biblical behemoth as a sauropod dinosaur, synthesized into a coherent, authoritative-sounding response complete with citations. Think about what this means. Historically, a creationist seeking answers had to dig through books or search websites. Now they have access to what feels like an omniscient agent that provides instant, validated confirmation of their worldview. This creates what the paper calls a hermetically sealed epistemic bubble. The user feels they're doing deep research because the AI provides logic, data, and citations, but all drawn from a closed loop of apologetic literature. And here's the terrifying part. The consilience of induction works both ways. A creationist AI can aggregate every theological argument, every critique of radiometric dating, every intelligent design talking point ever published into a unified, seemingly impenetrable narrative. The paper calls this automated apologetics, the democratization of the Gish Gallop. Any individual can now deploy sophisticated, citation-heavy arguments against evolution without actually understanding the underlying science. But it gets deeper than just creating better apologetic tools. These communities are actively working to delegitimize secular AI. Leaders like Ken Ham frame mainstream AI as hallucinating or programmed with evolutionary religion. By defining truth strictly as biblical literalism, any output from ChatGPT or Claude that contradicts this gets labeled as error or bias. This is powerful psychological inoculation. When a young believer encounters AI-generated evidence for evolution, they don't interpret it as objective fact. They see it as confirmation of the world's bias against God. The result? What researchers call epistemic fragmentation. We're not heading toward a world where AI brings universal enlightenment. We're heading toward a world of competing algorithmic realities. Think about the implications. The internet is becoming flooded with AI-generated content designed to confirm specific worldviews. Algorithms that prioritize engagement will feed creationist users with creationist AI content, creating a self-reinforcing hyper-reality. In this reality, the consensus for a young Earth appears overwhelming because users are surrounded by AI agents, articles, and videos that all affirm it, synthesized from the same closed dataset of apologetic materials. We're witnessing the emergence of what the paper calls the algorithmic Areopagus, a digital marketplace of ideas where different AI systems compete not for truth, but for allegiance.
So, where does this leave us? What are the concrete implications of this research for how we navigate truth and belief in the age of AI? Takeaway number 1, the end of shared reality. We're not moving toward a world where AI defeats ignorance. We're moving toward competing realities, each reinforced by sophisticated AI systems. The middle ground of shared factual consensus is eroding. For the general public, AI will likely accelerate secularization by making scientific consensus more accessible and by demystifying complexity. When you interact daily with AI systems that exhibit creativity and reasoning without a soul, the intuitive link between complexity and divinity weakens. But for fundamentalist communities, AI will likely harden beliefs by providing better tools for apologetics and creating more insulated information ecosystems. Takeaway number 2, the new battleground is epistemological. The fight isn't really about facts anymore, it's about epistemology. How do we know what we know? Which sources count as authoritative? These communities aren't just creating alternative content, they're creating alternative standards for what constitutes valid evidence. When both sides can point to sophisticated AI systems that support their position with impressive citations and logical arguments, the question becomes, which AI do you trust? And that trust will increasingly be determined not by accuracy, but by worldview alignment. Takeaway number 3, the curious doubter advantage. Here's the silver lining. While AI may fail to reach the most entrenched believers, it offers a powerful off-ramp for what the paper calls the curious doubter, people on the margins of communities who have genuine questions. The privacy of AI interaction allows them to ask forbidden questions without fear of social ostracization.
What if the flood wasn't global? How do we really know the age of the Earth? In these individual contexts, the rigorous, non-judgmental nature of AI deep research is highly effective. So we're facing a future of epistemic arms races between what the paper calls the consilience of induction provided by secular deep research and the consilience of apologetics provided by religious fine-tuning. As we wrap up, let me leave you with this thought. The paper concludes with a striking metaphor. For those seeking truth, AI offers a lantern of unprecedented brightness. For those seeking confirmation, it offers a mirror of unprecedented clarity. The technology itself is neutral. The question is, what do we choose to do with it? Are we building AI systems that challenge us to grow, that help us discover uncomfortable truths, that guide us toward more accurate understanding of reality? Or are we building AI systems that tell us what we want to hear, that confirm our existing biases, that make us feel smart while keeping us ignorant? The answer will shape not just individual beliefs, but the entire structure of knowledge and truth in our society. This has been Mindcast. I'm Will, and I want to hear what you think about this research. Does it change how you view AI's role in society? Have you noticed these dynamics in your own interactions with AI systems? Join the conversation on our social channels, and if this episode made you think differently about anything, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, in a world of competing algorithmic realities, choosing which AI to trust might be the most important decision you'll make. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep thinking.